Check, check. Mr. Mayor, we are ready.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. I will now call to order the Riverside City Council meeting for Monday, May 5th, 2025 at 6:01 PM. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Denning?
Here.
Ms. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomatch?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Present.
Mayor Williams?
Here. All members present, no need to excuse anyone. Has everyone had a chance to look at, I'm sorry, Mr. Manager, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Mr. Joseph to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. If you're able, please join us to rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And we do have a few very special guests with us here tonight that we're very, very pleased that we have a chance to make them a part of our evening's proceedings and really honoring someone who made a life of not just service to the common good, but specifically a service to us here in Riverside and prior to that to Mad River Township. We lost our chief a little over a month ago, the first chief in the city of Riverside's history, going back to the merger in 1994, 1995, and he preceded us in township role as a chief as well. And we're very fortunate to have his wife and daughter with us tonight. We're going to do a proclamation here honoring Chief Kurt Middleton for a life of service and a legacy of integrity. Whereas Chief Kurt Middleton served our community with distinction and honor throughout his long and faithful career in law enforcement. And whereas Chief Middleton began his public service as an auxiliary police officer for Mad River Township in 1970, becoming a full-time officer in 1973. Whereas through his leadership, dedication, and commitment to public safety, Curtis Middleton was appointed Chief of Police in 1976 and served in that role with integrity for 2 decades until his retirement in 1996. Whereas Chief Middleton's 26 years of full-time service, along with the early years as an auxiliary officer, left a lasting impact on the safety, professionalism, and community spirit of the Mad River Township and City of Riverside communities. Whereas his leadership helped shape generations of officers and fostered a department built on trust, service, and community engagement, which stands strong to this day, nearly 50 years later. Now, therefore, I, Peter J. Williams, Mayor of the City of Riverside, Ohio, and the Council of the City of Riverside, Ohio, do hereby declare May 5th, 2025 as Chief Curtis Middleton Day in the City of Riverside, and encourage all residents to honor the memory of Chief Middleton by reflecting on his legacy of service, compassion, and commitment to the well-being of our community. Signed on my hand on this day, May 5th, 2025. Now, I did give his daughter Dawn a bit of a warning that if she'd like to come up and just share a few words about her father, that would be very welcome and very appropriate at this time. And we just thank her and her mother so much for being here tonight and helping us honor Chief Middleton.
Gosh, the last time I stood at a podium, I was an executive director going against my council. Not tonight. But my dad taught me a lot over the years, and he taught me the sense of community and the commitment. And I saw over the years as a little girl growing up his commitment to this community, then the township. And I can tell you, since my dad has passed away, but prior to, the numerous police officers that served underneath my dad that came to see him. And we've had people call across the country that said if it wasn't for my father, they would not have ever had a start as a police officer. Numerous police officers also told us that they've never had a boss or an administrator, chief, how they used to call him, like my father, till this day, they said. To this day, they said, because my dad, yes, he was a disciplinarian, but he also made those officers feel like a family. And you don't find that anymore. I work in HR now. You don't always find that because you do have to follow rules and you have community input and all of that. But to have somebody who made them feel like they had a safe place is something to be said. So I honor my father, and my mother and I would like to thank everybody for taking the time out of today because he really enjoyed being a police officer until his retirement, which he had to take a medical, but he really loved and served his community. So I thank you all for serving my father, or honoring my father today. Thank you.
And Dawn, I found out just a few moments ago when Mike and I were talking to you and your mother that your father had to stop a little bit earlier than maybe he would have planned to because of a medical issue, but he stayed in the community. Your mother still lives in the house that she raised you in, and your father went to St. Helens growing up. So he's been a part of this community. He was here his whole life.
Yes, yes.
And it seems like he certainly took the care that you would expect from someone, the man you describe, and made this a safe place.
Yeah.
So we're really indebted not just to him, but to you as his family as well.
Yeah, he was my go-to person for protocol, so I'm going to miss that, to tap into that knowledge. And when I was an executive director and I had to go up against council for things that I had to do, he was my person. This is what you do, and this is what you don't do. So it's kind of lost, and it's going to be deeply missed. He's going to be deeply missed.
Well, his legacy lives here. It lives here in our police department and lives in
I hope
our
so.
community.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else would like to add anything?
Well, I met this young man at MVRPC dinner. He served with the chief, and I told him what we were doing tonight, and he's here if he would like to say anything about being on the staff with the chief. And introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm a retired sergeant, doctor now, Donald White. I served under Chief Middleton. I wasn't planning on saying anything other than the fact of coming down here and letting you know how much I appreciate the opportunity that he gave me back in, I think it was 93. I ended up retiring in 2006 because of an injury that I sustained on the job, but I just wanted to let you know that he was a stand-up guy, and I really appreciated serving under him. Thank you.
Thank
Could
you.
you give the clerk your name and,
I thought I did.
Don,
got it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
Because I spoke with him at the dinner, and he spoke so highly of the chief, and of course, I knew Chief Middleton personally, and can't say enough about the guy. He was strong, he was tough, he took no crap off anybody, putting it mildly.
Well, and Mike was just saying that he was instrumental in the merger and
Yes,
that
he was.
transition.
Are you done, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm done.
I got a couple. Kurt, back then, I was very young. And like Dawn, he kind of would push you in the right, and pull me aside and say, you may not want to say it quite that way. Yeah, I know that's what we want to say, but Kurt was very instrumental in pushing me into this position, and he saw potential in a very young 20-something young man, and pushed me to get on the conditions of merger committee. And then as time went on, he also was encouraging me to eventually run for council. So I can't say enough positive about Kurt. He would pull you aside and have a discussion with you, but he would tell you that you were doing it right, but you might want to say it a different way.
But he was telling you if you did it wrong.
And he'd tell you if you did it wrong too. So he was very good, and he really, I always say, he drank the Kool-Aid. This was his home. He lived and breathed Mad River Township / Riverside his whole life. And I don't know that if something ever happens to me, I'm hoping that they'll be able to say the same thing about me. So that's all I got.
Would you, ladies, want to come up so we can get a few photos with you in the proclamation?
Please do. Wait for me.
There's a lot of feedback on these mics.
Mike, let's get a picture with him.
You guys, you want to join us? That'd be very appropriate.
I know, sorry I didn't get to the.
Workman's comp. You know what that'll cost us?
I live in Lathrop.
And trust me, you don't want to do workman's comp.
Good job.
Thank you.
Whoa, be careful.
I caught you.
My name tag was trying to grab you.
You don't want to lose your shirt over that.
I was just gonna pull it over.
No, you weren't.
Bye, girlfriend.
A day later. Look, I did something very festive on this agenda. No one noticed.
He was quite the guy.
Oh, I see it.
Oh, yeah.
That's so
cute.
Yeah,
He was tough.
one of those ones you want to keep on
I,
your good side.
again, I
He
thought
was
I
tough
remembered
on young
that.
people.
Yeah.
He didn't take any mess. My children knew.
All right, well, thank you again to the Middleton family. We're very happy we could proclaim today in his honor and be joined by those very special guests. We will move on our agenda. If there's anyone here who would like to speak during our public comment section.
Let's get 40 minutes.
Man, I get so excited for public comment. We've all had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from April 21st. Is there any corrections to that, or are we going to accept them as published?
Move to approve
Second.
minutes.
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Mr. Maxfield to accept the minutes of the meeting from the 21st. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. As I was getting to a moment ago, our acceptance of citizens' petitions, if there's anyone who would like to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item, which are coming up later in the meeting, we have slips in the back of the room to fill out and hand to the clerk up here on the dais. Madam Clerk, are there any public comment for agenda items thus far?
Currently none.
Okay. Well, then we endeavor forward and we move on to unfinished business, of which we have an ordinance 25-0-866. Mr. Manager, the reminder on this?
This is the second reading of the ordinance that allows us to get into joint negotiations with other neighboring cities for streetlights. That would be negotiated with MVL and AES.
So move.
Second.
All right. The city charter of the city of Riverside allows for a public ordinance to be read by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, please read this ordinance by title only.
Ordinance number 25-0866, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riverside, Ohio, expressing the city's intent to negotiate jointly with other cities in the region on a one-price schedule under which electric light services shall be furnished to the residents of the city for the purpose of street lighting.
I will now open the public hearing for ordinance 25-0-866 at 6:16 PM. Anyone who wishes to speak on this, please come to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Hearing no one and seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing for ordinance 25-0-866 at 6:17 PM. Is there any further discussion among members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Lomach?
Yes.
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes. We'll now move into new business, of which we have 4 resolutions to consider. The first one, Resolution 25-R-3026. Mr. Manager, this is a solid waste management plan related.
Correct. This just reflects council's support for the county solid waste management plan. I think Mr. Manier spoke to this at the last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second for Mr. Brown. All those in favor of Resolution 25-R-3026, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The next resolution, Mr. Manager, 25-R-3027.
This resolution authorizes me to continue a contract with the Shared Resource Center for Finance Director Services. This resolution satisfies our procurement ordinance, which basically says anytime a contract amount exceeds that $25,000 threshold, council's approval is required. There are no changes to the contract that are required at this time.
Move to approve.
Someone needs a second.
We have a motion.
Someone needs a second before I can say anything.
Second.
We have a second from the Deputy Mayor. So a motion for Mr. Denning, a second for the Deputy Mayor. Councilmember comments. Mr. Joseph.
So, reading the contract, the service agreement that we have with the SRC, I pause to say I'd want to, at this time, add an extension of any, or appropriate any additional funds without seeing an amended agreement based on the language of the service agreement that we have. The effective dates on Section 6 is February 1st to May 31st. It says the agreement can get extended month to month, and if an agreement is in writing, a written extension, no later than 30 days prior to the termination of the agreement, which we're within the 30 days of that agreement being terminated, so it needs to be a written agreement. Any modifications to the agreement on Section 8 said it needs to be made in writing and signed by Riverside and the SRC. And then, like, more so, Section 5 provides professional liability insurance, saying that the SRC has to provide liability insurance to cover protecting Riverside from errors and omissions. With us being out of contract, if there's an error and omission, like, this is the work that I did as a consultant. I would provide this type of advice. There's always an agreement that's going to circle the work that I'm doing for someone, the CYA document. In my professional opinion, falling out without an addendum attached as an exhibit to this ordinance or this resolution, I don't feel comfortable appropriating an additional $50,000 to the contract without an extra, or without the addendum presented.
Did you read what Jim sent us?
I did.
He said everything's fine.
Yeah, and I disagree.
Okay.
I respect him as an attorney and as our law director, but in this particular instance, I disagree.
All right.
So I'd make a motion to postpone
well,
this.
No, you've already got a motion.
Well, he's saying that what he would do. He's
Yeah.
not making a
Oh,
motion.
okay.
No, I'm making a motion to postpone Resolution 25-R-3027 until the May 19th meeting.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Hold on. We have a motion and a second on the floor. So that has to be acted upon first.
Yeah, you have to act on the first motion because it's been seconded.
So could we proceed with this motion and make a decision on this motion and pursue the contract modification separately?
That's what I'm trying to make a motion to postpone the motion that's on the floor.
But without
Don't need-
postponing the motion that's on the floor, do this paperwork to adhere to our own charter and our own ordinances, and then pursue addressing the contract
The addendum.
question. Yeah.
Would that be an amended motion, Katie?
So, having a first and second on the resolution, the first time,
We have to vote on it.
Yeah.
We have to
yes,
vote on it.
that's the issue. That came first.
Right. We have to vote on that.
Okay, well, before we.
You're not allowed to table the original question.
You have a motion and a second, you should make a.
Right, motion
You should-
discussion followed by debate, and then you can bring it
Okay,
to a
well,
vote.
then you vote yes or
But you
no,
can't-
and then if you want to bring up your second motion,
Right.
then you do it after the fact. But you got to get through the first motion first.
You're not able to table an original question?
No, you table it before you go on, before it goes
That
on.
makes, that's not my interpretation of Robert's.
Is it needed to tie the two together?
I mean, in my professional
would
opinion, I
listen
would
to-
not allocate money without an agreement to it.
So I think it's important, though, before we continue this conversation, to really to be on the same page about terms. Strictly speaking, the money's already been appropriated. It's in the budget. We can spend it. This is not a question of appropriation, right? Because the budget's been passed. This is a question of approval of a contract, which I have by ordinance the authority to enter into. But once it crosses a certain threshold in terms of spending, again, monies that have already been appropriated, council is supposed to recognize that expenditure. That is all this is.
Yeah,
If you
we're
want a
just
contract amendment, I'm
recognizing-
happy to pursue that for the reasons that I explained in writing by email. I did not do that prior to this action. I'm happy to go do that. Strictly speaking, we have time. You know, you could vote this down today. I can go back and knock something out with the SRC and come back. The risk there, though, is that if we incur bills over past that $25,000 threshold between now and when we come back, I'll probably have to come back to you with a then and now, because it would be an expense incurred, you know, without your approval. So again, like, I understand respectfully, I understand what you're after. According to our law director and my professional opinion, it's not required. So this is the reason that, in the law director's opinion and in my opinion, the item is before you now. You don't have to act on it. You can vote it down and we'll pivot. But I think those are your options. But it is not a question of appropriation.
I'll call for the vote.
Okay.
All right,
I'll just we need to do a voice vote?
we need to do a roll call.
Okay.
Why?
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
No.
Ms. Lomach?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes. Our third resolution, Resolution 25-R-3028, is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with the 64th North Consulting Group.
Correct, and as alluded to at a couple of work session meetings now, and I want to be clear before council even initiates any kind of a motion on this, that no action on this is required here this evening. The resolution has been drafted. You've all been provided with a copy of the consulting firm's proposal, just so that you can see it. I wanted to have that ready in case you wanted to take action this evening. Again, like all of our resolutions, that's not required. This firm emerged, I asked all the department heads to go through and score all 9 of the proposals that we received. This firm was the consensus among the department heads as lowest and best. It is the lowest price out of all the firms, all the proposals that we did receive. I've made calls to several of the firms, or excuse me, several of the clients that were listed in this firm's reference sheet, all of which were positive. I called other people in my own network that worked for cities and counties that this consultant works for. All of their all of my other side research resulted in pretty positive reviews, and I got some deliverables of prior work. This firm's expertise is in fraud, waste, and abuse policies and investigations. They do some staffing work, but we would be a relatively new client, I think, in that area for them, which is part of the reason for the competitive price. Having said that, and having looked at, on balance, those references as well as the people that they are assembling to bring to us, I feel pretty confident that we would get a good work product from them. And again, with that background in terms of fraud, waste, and abuse, it never hurts to have a firm that's coming through looking at our operations and processes through that kind of a lens. So respectfully, like I've talked about in other meetings, I think the importance of this, while it is an expenditure, is that it would help us get, I think, through the same sheet of music in terms of a baseline. What is the number of staff that we actually need to put people on the ground to manage the functions that the public is asking us to do? And to use that then as the basis for looking at staffing numbers, either adding or reducing staffing going forward into future budgets and budget cycles. So that is the process that we have followed to bring this consultant to you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about that, the process or their qualifications as far as I've been able to do that research. But just in order to establish that baseline, I do respectfully request that you approve this resolution.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Mr. Brown. Is there any further discussion among members of council?
Yeah, I will not be supporting this. I feel very strongly that $50,000 could be put other places in the city, and if we hire the right city manager, I think we should be covered. And I will not be supporting this.
Well,
Well, we did
well,
hire.
No.
I will say we have hired the right city manager. I don't support this just because I don't feel we need to spend this amount of money at this time. I have full confidence in our city manager.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, it didn't quite come out that way. I understand the research and appreciate the time, and I understand why you're doing what you're doing, Josh. Personally, I just can't support it this time.
I think, I guess my thing is, we hired the correct city manager, and his suggestion to give us a better understanding of exactly what we have and where we need to go, and looking at long-term future, and looking at, we've got everybody saying we need, 87, or, 50 firefighters and 45 police officers and 27 people in the service department, and we need 15 administrative staff, but nobody, that's their opinions. We're going, with this, to me, we're going to get a professional opinion of what's going on in the real world and what they're doing, and whether maybe we do need that many, but maybe we only need fewer, And right now, we're approved, the police department, I know, is approved for 30 officers, and we only have 21, and we can't even fill the 30 that they're approved for. So I think, when you say we have the right city manager, I agree. And the city manager is coming to us and saying, I need this information so that I can move forward in the future for better budgets to get us into position. We are still in that position of trying to get things leveled out. And if we are working our people to death because we don't have enough people here, we're going to lose them. And
Leveled
we
out
are
from
losing
what?
them.
Leveled out from what?
Huh?
That-
We're losing them to other places.
That's not,
We just
that's
lost,
not
we
the
just
problem.
lost, we just
And
lost two or
we've
three
known-
people.
We have known, we've had many
Excuse me,
studies.
I have the floor. We lost 2 or 3 people from the services department because they went from us for $21 an hour to Greene County for $28 an hour. They're working long hours. Our police officers are working 12-hour shifts, 5 and 6 days a week in a row. We're burning our people out, and we need this information to tell us, hey, you need to have more people, or you don't need, or you have too many. But I'm not, Josh is busy enough already without him having to try to make this, and they'll get it done in a short amount of time compared to what it would take our staff to do the same thing. That's my opinion.
I'll add that years ago, when we were deciding whether or not to pursue a land use plan, which we ultimately did decide to pursue, and we have gained a lot from that plan in relationships and work moving forward, development opportunities within our city. There were those on this council who said, we don't need another plan. I think that it is short-sighted to say that we don't need good advice, good direction, good forward-thinking strategizing, because we can just shoot from the hip. I do not think shooting from the hip serves us well, and I do support this.
I would only add that if a study such as this, which would cost us $48,000 or $50,000 in this year, and we can save $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 annually for the next 5 or 10 years because of the efficiency studies or some of the comps that come out of this, that it was well worth the investment. Brenda, I appreciate you mentioning the land use plan because that's, in my mind, a very good comparison. The land use plan is something that was talked about for a long time, and you said we did get it finally. I would say, yeah, finally. But that also was long overdue. So I think my support of this is my support of the city manager and the methods that he needs to be effective, and that this money spent is not an expenditure as much as it's an investment in what future budgets will allow us to save money on and better use tax dollars on.
I'm going to agree with you, Pete, and in support of this. $48,000 is actually, like, I know I just fought against $50,000 because there's not a service agreement attached to it. We have a RFP from here. We have a scope of work that would have a date with it. I'm big about CYA. So with this, $48,000 to look at, like, what is this firm going to do for the city, right? It's going to look at the calls that the police receive. It's going to look at the calls that the fire department receive, and it's going to cross-reference that with other organizations. How efficient is our departments running? What do other cities run at? How many people, how many full-time equivalents, staff members does it take to run a full-service police department, fire department, public service department, administrative services at the levels that we need to? What that, and this is something I've harped on for 3 years now, is having the data for us helps us make informed decisions, right? That's why we have a new finance system. That's why we know how much money is in our bank. And guess what? Now we realize that we didn't have our money in a checking account because we didn't have the data, right? It was all in a checking. Now we're getting $200,000 a year in interest because we had the data.
That wasn't there before.
It wasn't there before. And all that was because we took the money, took the investment, the time and money into getting a new system.
And follow best practices.
And yeah, correct. So Josh comes from the consulting world. This is what he did. That's why we hired him. This is something that we've needed to do. This is way long overdue that we've had an efficiency study done. Because then it's not one of the 8, 9 of us that are on this board, on this table right now saying, like, this is how many staff members it takes to run the city. This is how much money it's going to cost us to do that. It's a third party saying that. So it's unbiased. We're paying them a check, they're going to give us a product, and then our relationships are done. So then we can give that information back to the residents if the city at one point needs to come and say, like, hey, we need to extend this levy, or we need to come for X, Y, or Z.
We have the data to drive it.
Correct.
We have the data for the story. We have the information that we need. Right now, we can sit here and say, we could really use, 12 more guys in the services department so that we could get more done, but that's just an opinion. There's nothing that says you would get, 27 potholes a day and whatever it is, more done if you had more people. We need the data so that we can give the residents the information that they need to make help them make an informed decision, understand where our informed decision came from.
I'd also say that helps us.
And I
make
know
decisions.
$50,000 seems like a big number, but like you said, it's an investment in the future, and it's like, we spent that much on software that and we've become way more efficient. And I may have been putting you on the spot, John. iWorks, what does that cost us a year?
Oh, I couldn't give you that number off the top of my head, but we do, it's a
But
variety
it
of
has made us
modules
so much more
Yes.
efficient, and we can get so much more done, and we can do so much more, give our residents better service because we invested in that software and we're training our folks to use it properly. I think in the grand scheme of things, this is a small amount. And I understand it seems like a lot from folks' standpoint, but it's really not. It's just an investment in the future.
And before you all vote, I would be remiss if I didn't say, just for the record too, that while it is true that I have a background in consulting, I have no affiliation with this firm or any of the principals of this firm or anybody who put in any part of this proposal at all. So I've never worked with them, don't know them from Adam, and the department heads were the primary scorers of these for a reason, and that's why. So-
But you did do your due diligence
do my
and called for references and outside of their reference list, so I appreciate that.
I'll call the question.
All right.
Real quick, for what it's worth,
Oh.
how many other places did you check with a bunch? How many different ones did you check with when you got come to that?
To do the reference
Yeah,
checks, you mean?
yes.
We emailed 5, I heard from 3. I heard from Pearland, Texas, Pinellas County, and a community in New Jersey. And then I received deliverables, I think, from 2 of those. One of which was not, strictly speaking, super relevant because it was much more of not quite an audit, more of a fraud, waste, abuse focused kind of a report on cash handling in a finance department. So it's helpful because it kind of shows the way they think as a firm. And then the other one had a little bit more of again, not quite a staffing focused study, but enough of the same methodology where laying that out in the report, it was easy to see how they were parsing data. And that gave me I felt like a comfort level with them. So
And how many different companies did we have bids from?
we had 9.
We had
Yeah, I guess
none.
that was my actual question. Like, you said the 48,000 was the most competitive price that we got from a bid. What was the average mean?
Yeah, the range, sorry, on the 9 proposals.
Yes, yes.
For the 9 proposals, the range was this bid at the low end, 48,434, all the way up to
145.
north of 145. It was like 146 and change. Most bids were kind of in the middle, in the 100s to 120-30s. And so, yeah, we had actually quite a large range. But part of the low end of this.
They're trying to
was
get their foot in the door.
was a discounted price, in part because they want us as a client. It could be sort of that kind of an approach for them as well. But, on balance, when you're looking at costs and also number of hours that come with that cost, this firm had more hours than the runner-up firm as well, which again tells me that we should get more out of them work-wise than some of the other firms, so.
For reference, Katie, when someone calls a question, that means
Yes,
discussion
it
stops.
should have stopped,
Yeah.
but that would have been.
Andy, stop being so polite, just jump in.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. You probably could have just threw your hand up real quick.
I should have stopped Andy right
Yeah,
there.
I was actually just trying to
Duly
let you know
noted.
that.
Okay, the question's been called.
Yes, so I'm going to do a roll call vote again.
Thank you.
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomach?
No.
Mr. Maxfield?
No.
Mayor Williams?
Yes. Our 4th resolution. Another hot button issue, Mr.
3029, oh, sure, right point, everybody's favorite. So this
We
was.
end with this? Geesh.
Well, I know, right? So this resolution authorizes payments for change orders, and I believe I emailed council a summary of these, but they're also in the packet as well. The total amount of change orders is just under $188,000. Unfortunately, the bulk of this is required work that we must do to replace fireproofing that has fallen off of the ceiling at 5100. Because of the way the buildings were built and the way they are sprinklered, we cannot just let it go and vacuum up the fireproofing and call it a day. The fireproofing alone is, I believe, in the 130s. So the bulk of this expense is just to come back into code compliance with that fireproofing. The other expenses are really related to minor touch-ups that we discussed. So for example, isolating some electric circuits, improving this to improve the security and resiliency of the building and the security systems. And then establishing some sort of a timer or circuit breaker for the charging station out front, and some additional painting just to help us tidy the place up. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Motion for Ms. Lomach, second for the deputy mayor. Any discussion among members of council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Madam Clerk, are there any public comment for non-agenda item slips turned in?
No slips turned in.
Okay. We'll move along to discussion items, of which we have a couple, and I'll turn it back over to the manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At a forthcoming meeting, probably next meeting unless there are lots of questions, I'll be bringing a resolution to council approving or accepting the Wright-Patterson Regional Council of Governments adoption of the Compatibility Use Plan, the CUP, for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I will make sure that council has the full document after this meeting, but just for the benefit of the public and those that may be watching, I wanted to preview just a couple of pages from this so that you can see the document and just kind of get an idea of what it looks like and how this fits into our community, our land use planning, and where we're trying to go here in the future. So a compatibility use plan, in a nutshell, is basically really similar to a comprehensive plan. So it's similar to the comprehensive land use plan that we adopted back in 2023. And as you flip through this document, it describes land uses around the base and some ways of positioning that land for economic development, security, resiliency, those sorts of things. The real difference in this, and if you're a real nerd and a wonk like me and you really get down into the weeds of a document like this, is there are all sorts of unique things about a military installation that a city doesn't have to deal with. So things like flight lines for fighter jets, noise contours, those sorts of things. The bulk of what this document is oriented to address are those base-specific concerns. And the idea behind this process is that all of the communities that touch the base, so everybody that's in the Wright-Patt Council of Governments, would adopt this and then seek to reflect the principles of this document in their land use plans and in their zoning codes. Again, the idea being that if we're all operating from a very similar place, there's consistency in development around the base, it doesn't create national security or other concerns, and it helps support the installation. So without belaboring this here, I just want to kind of point out for the benefit of the public, some places where Riverside in particular is mentioned here. We're certainly not Fairborn. As you work down, this is chapter 4 of the document, but as you work down through this document, there is a write-up about each of the communities that comprise the COG, that touch the base, and some discussion inside that about recent things that we have accomplished. So we talk about our land use planning development efforts here, the comp plan in 2023, and then other major projects that we're trying to undertake, like the Springfield Street Corridor. That was obviously recently repaved. And then all of our work and the recognition that we got from Congressman Turner's office about trying to redesign Woodman and sort of this gateway area up here is also referenced in this document. As you go through, especially if you're interested in reading some of what the other cities have written, there's a lot of alignment between what the communities have plugged into this document and what we're asking for in terms of congressional grants, congressional funds, or other large grant efforts and opportunities. So there's language in here about updates to like the Grange Hall area for Beaver Creek and 675 for the communities farther south, those sorts of things. And you can see here too, every community's land use plan is also reflected in this document. So they go through and they publish a map that kind of lays out. This obviously came from our 2023 land use plan. As you flip through, you'll see Huber's, Dayton's, everybody else's in here as well. And what the consultant did is looked at all of those plans and relevant zoning codes and ordinances and then tried to lay out how well or how much alignment there is between the rules and regulations that the jurisdictions around the base have adopted versus what the base is looking for. So the base is looking for everybody to have a comprehensive plan. A green box means we've got one. The base or this CUP addresses things like zoning density, height restrictions, lighting, and sound attenuation. So trying to reduce the impact of noise from planes flying overhead. The main takeaway I take from this table is that, again, it's a sort of a status check on communities that surround the base. We're very similar to the other cities. Like all the other cities, we have a comp plan. Our current comp plan, our current zoning code, which we are in the process of rewriting, does not address density in the way that the CUP thinks about it, but that is something that we have notified ZoneCo about, and it's this, they have a copy of this document. They're going to think about and reflect it in the zoning code. We're very similar to other communities in that we do talk about height restrictions, but lighting and sound attenuation are also pieces of our code where we have some opportunity to do some additional development. Again, the takeaway here being that we are much like our peers that surround the base in the sense of having a lot of the pieces of this together and then being able to use this document to continue making improvements. Two more things to show you that I just wanted to point out. The aircraft noise zones are a perennial topic of conversation for developers around the installation. So what that means is that there is a certain amount of noise that's permissible before you, or in order to be able to put residential areas or residential developments in areas where you may have fighter jets and other really loud planes flying overhead. The interesting thing about this table that I just wanted to point out for everybody's benefit is that we have, although we are a small city compared to many of the others that are listed on this table, we have a fair amount of acreage, total acreage, that actually falls inside those noise contours. So almost, well, about 928 acres or so is within a noise contour area in Riverside. And it's difficult to see if you pull up the PDF and zoom in, but it's basically these hashed areas kind of on our northern area and as well as down here a little bit in the south where we're sitting here. Those acreages, even if we could put housing there, it may create additional requirements as far as insulation, soundproofing, sound attenuation so that windows don't get blown out, those
And
sorts
height.
of things. Mhm.
And height is a big
And yeah,
deal.
height's the other requirement. And that's actually, I believe, roadway capacity, excuse me, sorry. The other thing that I was going to point out here too is, in addition to noise and height, we have a section in this report toward the end that talks about transportation-related improvements. And what I've highlighted here is just an area where I wanted to be sure that this report spoke to our efforts, the work we've already done, to repave and reconfigure Springfield Street, as well as the work we are doing with the congressional directed funding from Congressman Turner's office, our efforts to continue going to chase grants and rebuild that, or to build a redevelopment node in this part of the community. Those are all addressed here, and many of our peers put language in to that effect as well. So again, I'll be sure council has a copy of this document. Feel free to peruse it at your leisure. But the main takeaways, I think, for us are that it's sort of twofold. There's the contents of this report, which are basically a companion to the land use planning that we've already done and is already informing our zoning code rewrite. I think just as importantly, the fact that we've participated in the Right Pat COG, that we're attending those meetings, we're a voting member of the COG, and we, along with our peers, have participated in this process to move this forward, really speaks to council's willingness and dedication to be a regional player and partner with all of our neighbors and the installation to help be sure that economic development proceeds in a productive way going forward. So I will send that document to you all. If you have any other questions or anything, feel free to get in touch with me. Happy to answer any questions that you may have that may come up, but just wanted to preview that with you this evening.
The always breathe other items.
Handful of things here, and a big thank you to Katie, who helpfully emailed me a reminder list of things to say. So the first is, I had a chance to sneak out to the open house over the weekend at 1791. Thanks to everybody who showed up
It was
to
awesome.
that. The weather, unfortunately, was not super cooperative, but the staff did a great job trying to go out and get donations for food, washing all the trucks, taking folks on tours. I think we had just under 20 was the last count that I had heard. But again, we're definitely looking to do more of those, and I think it was an eye-opening experience for folks that were able to make it. We'll be out hydrant flushing beginning this week, and that'll continue through the early part of summer. So if you see folks out working a fire hydrant in your area, maybe give it a minute, kind of run a faucet. If you get a little bit of dirty water, that's normal. Anytime they do a valve exercise, some of the rust breaks off. It may, but you just run the tap for a few seconds and usually it'll clear. If you have ongoing problems, you can certainly get in touch with us, and we can help you reach out to the county, since the county manages the water system. The stormwater page is live on the city's website,
It is.
correct? And I know Katie's been working very diligently and very hard with public service to update all their web pages, so thank you, Katie. And we've set dates for the community garage sale. That would be July 31 through August 3rd. That's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. No registration is required.
Yep. It would be nice if we want to put together a post to give all the addresses. So
That's
that's what we
true.
typically do.
Thank you, Katie.
Yes, there is going to be a specific form on the website, which will launch this week, for people to fill out just for that community garage sale.
Yes, so if you are interested in selling, it behooves you to get on that list.
Yes.
So people know where to go.
Yes.
All right, we can do that. Food truck season is here. Please remember that if you are operating a food truck, there's a variety of permits that are required for that. You can reach out to staff, and we will help make sure you have what you need. And the final thing is that elections are tomorrow, May 6th, so please remember to go out and vote. And finally, thank you to Katie again for a very successful Citizens Academy last week. Speaking of eye-opening, I had a lot of people come up to me afterward who were very, very complimentary. And I know Chief Miller did a great job presenting, Chief Robinson and Major Sturgeon as well, putting together a presentation for that effort. And I believe, and Tina was there.
Yes.
So Officer Jackson, thank you again for showing folks how we operate. I think it's important for them to see. And that's all I have.
All right, I want to make sure folks know that there's an executive session at the end of this meeting after we go through council member comments. So we will go into exec before we convene, or before we adjourn at the end of the meeting, but for all intents and purposes, the public portion of the meeting will be over after council member discussion. So I would ask if any of my fellow council members have any items they'd like to discuss before we go into exec.
Just, if you see my wife today, wish her a happy birthday. I won't say how old she is.
Make sure that's in the
Smart man.
minutes. Did not divulge.
A reminder to vote. Tomorrow is Election Day. We will be voting on a levy for the school. Please show the school your support. They really need it.
I do have one thing I wanted to bring up, kind of piggybacking off Mike's comments about the police department, 12-hour shifts and 6 days a week and overworked. I reached out to Josh last week, just a short little text message about possibly bringing back our Citizens Patrol that we used to have back in the 90s and early 2000s. And I just wanted to see if he could kind of reach, and, I'm sure, Mike, Sarah, you guys could step in on this when that was, in place, just information about that. But if Josh would be able to reach out with Chief Robinson about seeing if we could possibly get that re-implemented to kind of take a little bit of
It
burden.
comes down to budget now, doesn't it?
Yeah, always. But, I just think, it'd be a good opportunity for citizens to be able to take advantage of that and take a little bit of the, just the things like, crash and crime scene assists and disabled motorists and stuff like that, just to kind of take a little bit off of their plate to help them out a little bit, so.
And I would ditto that. I see that functioning well out in Beaver Creek when they have car accidents or whatever. It'll
Beaver
be
Creek
the
and Huber as well.
Yes, they have assistance from, and there was just one on Harshman that backed up the traffic, and it was backing up 3 of our automobiles as I made my way around. I spent Friday at the Riverways Symposium down in Miamisburg. And of course, we are not a member of Riverways. I've been a proponent to do that for years because there's now more interest in the Eintracht. There's pros and cons about the Eintracht, but it could be a jewel if this city, other cities take time, take planning, take money, and make places that people want to go to. The Eintracht could be that, and we started, and we've just let it go. If we were, and we've never belonged to Riverways, as many cities along the river are, all the way to Hamilton. And I think we're really, and people are discussing Eintracht on Facebook, I think it would be very, very sad if this city was not dedicated to making that a place where people wanted to go. And I don't mean just for fish fries on Friday night. I mean, it could be, we've never finished the dock for putting, we could get the low dam that's below there, that is a bit of an issue for the kayaks. You know, once they go down the Miami and they get down towards the city, there's a low dam. There's money out there to get those removed, to clear the river so that it's more usable. And we've never finished the job. We started it, and it's sad. It's very sad that we are not taking advantage of making a place where people want to go, have a picnic, enjoy the river, go hiking in the woods. There's just lots of things that we could do that other cities are doing, and they're putting money out there to do it. But this city has never decided to make it a place to go. It's just out there. And we've never finished. It started, what's nice, the walkway down to the river and all that, but we've never finished the job. And it sits out there, and people could really enjoy. We had some Parks and Rec people who were interested in it several years ago. And the city didn't back them up, so they aren't there anymore.
That's not fair, Sarah.
What?
The casting aspersions on the prioritization, we set the priority. It was not in our priority list when we did the strategic planning,
I see that.
and it was not in our priority list when we looked at goals.
That's what I'm saying.
If that's something that we want to pursue, we need to prioritize.
That's what I'm saying. We initially got the ODNR grant, and we started the project, and we've never followed up because it's never been a priority.
We ran out of money.
I say if that there's free money available that we don't have to match to,
Or tie a property deed to.
yeah, then, I mean, by all means, but, like,
Or in the case of putting all the paths in, yeah, there was some money available to put, but then you have the continuous upkeep, and there's dollar values associated with that. And right now, we have a difficult time keeping up with the existing parks that we have. And if we had to if we put in walking paths and had to maintain them, and then we have the liability of somebody getting hurt out there, all that additional cost.
I know all that, Mike. I'm just
So
saying.
that's
I'm
the
going on the
reason it
record.
was never moved higher on our priority list.
Yep, now we're stuck with it. Well, I wanted to echo what Brenda said, that the election tomorrow, while not a November election that most Americans are used to, that the one tomorrow has significant consequences here at home and statewide. And I think we all as a group endorsed the permanent improvement levy that the Mad River schools are advocating for. I personally advocate for it. The bond issue that paid for the new schools that we have been enjoying for 20-plus years now has been paid off. It is no longer on the property tax bills for any Mad River school property in our city. So your taxes went down, even if your property value went up, because the new mills that went on did not match the mills that fell off. The improvement levy amount that they're requesting is less than what they had before. So I think that it is in time to protect that investment, protect the investment of those beautiful buildings that we were able to get in the early 2000s with the help of the state. And I just hope people vote tomorrow. Vote however you'd like to, but please vote.
Ditto.
With that, we will be in executive, so we are in executive session at 7:01 PM.
No,
For the
no,
reasons on the
For the reasons on the agenda.
So moved.
Because Mike moved it,
and I'll,
and then Zach seconded it, and then we had a roll call. And all those things happen in the minutes, right?
Mr. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
I read Yes. right
Ms.
there.
Lomatch?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes. 7:01, just like it happened.
Is the restrooms downstairs?